The United States federal prison system designed Alcatraz Island to be the absolute end of the line for America's most dangerous inmates. Escaping the island required a 1.25-mile swim through the San Francisco Bay. The water hovered around 50 degrees year-round, churned by violent, unpredictable currents. For 29 years, this environment maintained an absolute track record of dominance. The facility housed men who had already escaped from other federal prisons, names like Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly. 36 men attempted to break out. Every single one was caught, shot, or drowned. Alcatraz operated as a highly engineered system designed specifically to break an inmate's hope. Any successful escape would require a level of ingenuity capable of entirely reverse engineering the prison's own mechanics. At 7:15 a.m. on June 12, 1962, a guard conducting his routine morning rounds knocked on Frank Morris's cell. He got no response. He knocked again. The guard reached in to rouse the inmate and touched the hair. The head detached, rolled off the pillow, and hit the floor. It was a dummy made of soap, toilet paper, and real human hair. Alarms began blaring across the island. Frank Morris and 2 other high-risk inmates had vanished completely, triggering the largest federal manhunt in American history. Federal agents, the Coast Guard, and local police flooded the bay. They needed to answer a single question. Did 3 men quietly drown in the freezing water, or had they orchestrated an impossible? He teamed up with John and Clarence Anglin, 2 brothers known for their fierce loyalty and resourcefulness. Looking at this structural cutaway of the cell block, you can see the single vulnerability the men identified. Directly behind their cell vents sat a narrow plumbing shaft that ran vertically from the floor all the way to the roof. The concrete holding the vent grills in place was old and weakening. Using spoons stolen from the dining hall and sharpened into makeshift tools, the men spent 6 months chipping away at the walls around their vents. To speed up the process, they smuggled a vacuum cleaner motor out of the prison workshop and fashioned it into a homemade power drill. Every morning, they concealed the structural damage they had caused overnight by inserting false vent grills crafted from cardboard and a mixture of soap and paint. The escape relied on a sustained psychological deception. For 6 months, the men maintained a normal routine while guards walked just inches away from the structural damage hidden behind their beds. Getting out of the cell block meant nothing if they couldn't survive the water. Hidden under blankets and inside musical instrument cases, they secretly stitched and vulcanized over 50 stolen raincoats to construct life preservers and a 14-foot inflatable raft. To buy themselves an 8-hour head start on the night of the escape, they crafted realistic dummy heads to fool the guards during the nighttime head counts. At 9:30 p.m. on June 11, after lights out, Morris and the Anglin brothers squeezed through their enlarged vents. A 4th accomplice, Alan West, was left behind because his vent was still too narrow for him to pass through. Once inside the utility corridor, the 3 men climbed 30 feet vertically to the roof. They crossed the top of the building, scaled a fence, and shimmied down an exterior kitchen vent pipe to reach the rocky shoreline. Sometime around midnight, they inflated their patchwork raft with a handcrafted concertina pump, pushed out into the pitch-black 54-degree water, and began paddling. In the days following the breakout, search crews found almost nothing. They recovered a single paddle, a wallet wrapped in plastic, pieces of rubber, and a homemade life vest washed ashore. Later, Norwegian sailors reported a body floating in the Pacific shipping lanes. It was never recovered. Based on this sparse physical evidence and the brutal conditions of the bay, the FBI officially concluded in 1979 that the men drowned, allowing them to close the case. This map illustrates an oceanographic simulation mapping the currents of San Francisco Bay on the night of the escape, conducted by Dutch researchers in 2014. The data challenges the FBI's drowning hypothesis. The simulation revealed a very specific window. If the inmates launched their raft at exactly 11:30 p.m. and paddled northward, the shifting tides would have carried them toward the Marin County headlands. Modern experiments have confirmed the viability of their equipment. The Mythbusters team successfully built a replica raft using the same raincoat materials and methods, proving it could hold the weight of 3 men in open water. Modern physics and oceanography support the possibility of survival. In the right conditions, the raincoat raft was a physically viable vessel for reaching the mainland. In 1975, a photograph emerged from Brazil. Family members identified the 2 men in sunglasses as John and Clarence Anglin, appearing alive and well 13 years after their disappearance. Then, in 2013, the FBI received a letter purportedly written by an 83-year-old John Anglin. The author claimed Frank and Clarence had passed away and offered to surrender in exchange for medical treatment for cancer. The FBI tested the letter but could not conclusively confirm or deny its authenticity. The breakout destroyed the prison's reputation for security. Alcatraz permanently closed less than a year later as the escape shook confidence in its impregnability. Because no bodies were definitively found, the United States Marshals Service refuses to close the investigation. They still list the Anglin brothers as wanted fugitives today. Armed with sharpened spoons and over 50 raincoats, 3 men defeated the most secure prison in America and vanished. Whether they succumbed to the bay or lived out quiet lives under assumed names, they remained the only escapees from